Hey everyone, how you doing? It is me, Tim, going to be reading Balloons Over Broadway by Melissa Sweet. Every little movement has a meaning of its own. From the time he was a little boy, Tony Sarg loved to figure out how to make things move. He once said he became a Martina man when he was only 6 years old. His father asked him to feed their chickens at 6:30 in the morning every day. Tony had an idea. What if he could feed the chickens without leaving his bed? He rigged up some pulley and ran rope from the chicken coop door to his bedroom window. That night he spread chicken feed outside the chicken coop door. The next morning, Tony pulled on the rope and the door to the chicken coop opened. The chickens ate their breakfast. Tony stayed snug in his bed, and his dad, so impressed, never made Tony do another chore. When Tony grew up, he moved to London, where he discovered that no one was making Martinas for kids anymore. So, out of wood, cloth, and string, Tony began to make puppets. He figured out ways to make his Martinas movement so lifelike that they performed as if they were real actors. Word soon spread about Tony's amazing marionettes. When Tony moved to New York, Tony Sarg marionettes began performing on Broadway. In the heart of New York City, in Herald Square, was the biggest store on earth. R.H. Macy's department store. Macy's had heard about Tony's puppets and asked him to design a puppet parade for the store holiday window. So Tony made new puppets based on storybook characters, then attached them to gears and pulleys to make them move. In Macy's Wondertown window, Tony's Manico Marrentas danced across the stage as if by magic. All day long they performed to shoppers jostling for a better look. But Macy's had its own even bigger job in store for Tony. Many of the people working at Macy's were immigrants, and as the holiday approached, they missed their own holiday tradition of music and dancing in the streets. Macy's agreed to put on a parade for the employees, and they hired Tony to help. Tony, too, was immigrant, so he loved the idea of creating a parade based on street carnivals from all over the world. He made costumes and built horse-drawn floats, and Macy's even arranged to bring in bears, elephants, camels from Central Park Zoo. The animals joined 100 of Macy's employees on Thanksgiving Day, 1924, winding their way from Harlem to Herald Square. It was a dazzling parade. In fact, Macy's first parade was such a success that they decided to have one every year on Thanksgiving to celebrate Americans' own holiday. Each year, the parade grew, but when Macy's brought in lions and tigers, in addition to bears, elephants, and camels, the animals roared and growled and frightened the children. Tony, can you think of something spectacular? Okay. Macy's asked Tony to replace the animals. Tony hoped to replace the animals with some kind of puppets, but his marentas were less than 3 feet tall. He would have to make much larger puppets in order for them to be seen in the parade, and how could he make them strong enough to hold up in bad weather, yet light enough to move up and down the streets? Tony knew of a company in Ohio that made blimps out of rubber, the perfect material for any weather. When he called the company and showed them his sketches, they began to make what Tony wanted. Still, how would Tony make his big puppets move? Then Tony had an idea from an Indonio's rod puppet in his toy collection. On Thanksgiving Day, Tony's creations, some as high as 16 feet, spilled into the streets, and the crowds cheered wildly. Part puppet, part balloon, the air-filled rubber bags wobbled down the avenue, popped by wooden sticks. By now, the sidewalks were so packed with people that only those in the first row could really see the parade. Tony realized his puppets would have to be even bigger and higher off the ground, and though the sticks helped to steer the puppets, they were stiff and heavy. Tony wanted his balloons to calculate, to move and guster more like puppets. But how? With a marenta, the controls are above and the puppets hung down. But what if the controls were below and the puppet could rise up? During the next year, Tony set his new idea into motion. This time, he asked the company in Ohio to make balloons out of rubberized silk, as strong as rubber, but lighter than rubber alone. Most important, Tony ordered the balloons to be filled with air, but with helium too. Since helium is lighter than air, it can make the balloon rise. Once the puppets were completed, they were deflated and shipped back to Tony in New York. Tony did not know if anything would go as planned. What if the balloons are filled with too much helium? What if one lifts a sharp object? Will they fit under the elevator train track? It was still dark on Thanksgiving morning when Tony filled the balloons with helium, tethering them down with sandbags. By 1 p.m., the sidewalks were packed with people ready for the parade. Then, one by one, Tony cut the lines to the sandbags. Let's have a parade! And the magical upside-down margaritas rose up to the sky. Nobbling and waving to the crowd below, they sailed past Central Park. They sailed down Broadway. They shimmed and swayed through the canyons of New York. High above the crowd, they afflounced in the afternoon wind, pulling the rope handlers this way and that. Yet with every heave-ho, the balloons gustered and are calculated like wild puppets, and the crowd screamed for more. Another balloon were eased under the elevator. They ended in front of Macy's at Tony's Wondertown windows. It was a parade New Yorkers would never forget. And from that day on, every Thanksgiving morning, crowds have lined the streets of New York City to see what new balloons would rise to the sky for Macy's famous parade. Tony Sarg, the puppeteer who loved to figure out how to make things move, had set the stage with little rigging for a puppet to be anything anyone could imagine it would be. That was a cute story, wasn't it, everyone? Learned how New York started their Macy's Thanksgiving parade. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the story. And if you did, give it a thumbs up. And I want to say thanks for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. Vlog over.